If you're having issues with your second gear on your 47RE automatic transmission or even your 46RE, I'm pretty sure this applies to that one as well. This video will be able to help you learn how to replace your second gear band and your solenoids without dropping the transmission. First thing you're going to do is come into the truck and come here on the driver's side, so I'm facing the passenger side, and you come up to this electrical connector, and you're going to want to clean all the dirt around on the outside. Try and get it as clean as you can, that way you don't get as much dirt in the transmission as you're removing and reinstalling the valve body. So clean that area around there. Another thing that's important to note is that if your band adjusting screw is flush with the jam nut, that's about as far in as you can go until you're just, scraping metal on metal. So that's an important thing to know. I'll show you how to adjust the bands later in the video, but if it's looser than this, if the screw is farther out, then you're good to keep using that band. And as you can see, I've cleaned it all off, and so the next step is to take your pan off. So you're just going to take the bolts off around the pan. Don't drop it all the way, but I like using one of those containers from Costco. It helps me catch all the drips and splashes. So you put that underneath, drop your pan, and then you can move on to the next step. Now, just let it drain out as much as it can, and then you take those last two bolts out and drop it the rest of the way when it's done dripping. And then you're also going to take that filter off right under there. There's just two Torx bits underneath it. And then on your pan, don't make sure you don't lose your gasket. You might have a reusable one, or you might need a new one. And then you're going to clean off these metal shavings here from your magnet. Clean out your pan. I'm going to use a wire brush on the edge of mine too, because it's a little rusty. In the same spot on the driver's side of your transmission, you're going to take that spring off, and then your TV cable. Then you're going to take off the little arms, one for your TV cable, and then the one below it is for your shifter. So you're going to take those off. It takes a little bit of wiggling. They just have bolts tightened on the sides of them. And after you have both of those off, you're going to come over here and take off your electrical connector. Sometimes you need a little mechanics picks to kind of lift up the little tabs on the sides, but you're going to take that off as well. So get those off, and then you'll be ready to start dropping your valve body. And then right over here, you're going to have 3 bolts on the right side, 3 bolts on the left, and then 4 around your governor. So you're going to loosen those and then kind of pop the valve body down, and it'll start draining some more. And then you let it drain. And as you pull the valve body out, this guy's going to be sitting on top of your governor. So make sure you don't lose it. Just spring and piston, 2 pieces, don't lose them. So when you pull the valve body out, it's really helpful to have a friend to kind of rock the truck back and forth so that your parking pawl can come out of that crevice back there. And this is what the parking pawl looks like. It just is a little stick that sticks back there. And it will slide right out of that little hole right there. So you're going to start to remove the band by loosening this adjuster right here as much as you can. Don't take it out, but then you're going to have a little guy, this little piece that holds the band in from the adjuster to the band, come out from right there. Alright, where I'm holding it. And then this guy, this little bar, is going to come out from the other side. So once it's loose, they'll both be able to come out pretty easy. And you can check the health of your drum by running your fingernail along it just like that and see if it's, got scored up too much. And then you're going to pull this down. That way it clears the way for you to start grinding down this side so you can pull the band out of the transmission. And if you have a slip-in band that's made to be slipped in, you can just cut this off and go with it. But for me, I'm putting a stock band in, and I'm going to need to grind down the stock one. So I'm going to grind this one down until I know it can slip out, and then I know I kind of have a baseline for the other band. And right here you can see I kind of wrapped a towel up in there to keep the medical particles when I'm grinding from getting in the transmission. Because you definitely don't want those little medical particles in there. That'll ruin your new band. Yeah, just wrap a towel up in there, and you can see I've already started grinding that tip there. Alright, so we got her out. There she is. We had to grind that down to about look like that. Get some good angles on there. So that's about where we're going to have to grind the new one down to. And you can see right here, so to measure your clearance as you're grinding it, it's supposed to fit between right there where my fingers are. If it can fit through there, it should be able to fit around the whole drum. Alright, got the new band right here, old one right there, and then we got our grind. So here we go. I'll start by trying to match those two. Alright, so we just cut this guy. Cut him to try to match that other guy exactly. And another thing, remember, you want to coat this in transmission fluid. You want to let it soak. Let it be totally covered in transmission fluid, because if you start the truck and it's pushing fluid through and this is rubbing on the on the drum at all, and it's not absolutely soaked in transmission fluid, you could burn it up from the get-go, and then boom, you got to do the whole job again. So make sure that's soaked in transmission fluid. We still got to do that. So all right, we got our welder hooked up, and it's sitting on there ready to go. All right, so I tacked it up there, and you can see just tacked it up. I'm gonna grind it, make it pretty, and then we'll be able to put it in. Alright, so while the band is soaking in transmission fluid, I'm going to come in, take this little cover off, and this is actually the first one that hasn't been broken when I've taken it out, but this spring's usually broken. Anyways, so you want to check that, replace the spring usually, and then put it back together, make sure you clean it up real good. So one more thing to note, you see that little slit in there? That's supposed to be there, don't worry, they're not broken. And then you're going to come over here, and you're going to take your little governor valve block off. It just has the 2 Torx bits, T25s, and it should just pop off. And then you're going to make sure that you replace your transducer, I think is what it's called, and your governor pressure solenoid. And then you don't have to take off the wiring harness, and I honestly wouldn't recommend it unless you have to, because those pins, for some reason, any new harness I've used has always been terrible, and I've had to put the old one back on. So I wouldn't use the new harness unless you have to. What you're going to do is you're going to cut those 2 zip ties off on there, and then you're going to, there's just 3 little screws on there, 3 T25s, take it off, cut the zip ties off, unplug it, and then you're going to be able to put your new overdrive sensor in there, right there. And the biggest thing is you're going to want to make sure that this block is clean. And make sure you replace the gasket, take it all apart and clean out all the stuff that you can, make sure it's really nice before you put it all back together. Alright, then you come back here under the truck, make sure you get a little clutch material there, make sure it's all clean. You could even rotate the drum around to clean it off, but you're going to take your band, and you're going to take the ground down edge, and you're going to slide it around. And I think you can go either way, but I started on this side and pulled it around to the other side, and that was easier for me, but I think it can go either way. You do have to finagle it, wiggle it around, stick a screwdriver in there, and kind of, it's kind of hard to slip it around, but it is possible, don't worry. And is installed. Now I just got to, what I'll do now is I'll put this back where it's supposed to be, put that little piece right there, put the little guy right there, and then tighten that back so it holds it in place. And I'll do the torque spec later when we don't have this open hole to let dust drop. And I forgot to make a video for this part, but in the bottom left corner of this picture you'll see the rear band adjuster. So it has the jam nut and then that bolt in the middle. What you're going to do is you're going to loosen the jam nut, then you're going to tighten that bolt in the middle to 72 inch-pounds, and then after tightening to 72 inch-pounds you're going to back it off 3 full turns, then you're going to tighten your jam nut, and that's how you adjust that rear band. And then one other thing to note, so this little ball right there, that is what holds your gear shifter in place. And so you're going to want to make sure that that's clean, don't get any dirt in there, because if it does get bound up, sometimes that ball will get stuck inside that little sleeve, and then your gear shifter will just move back and forth, and it won't stay in gear. That's the little piece that turns as you shift your gears. So just make sure that ball's clean, and if you ever have issues with your truck sliding in and out of gears, on the column, that's usually that little detent ball that is the issue. So just make sure to watch that. And this position here is park, so it has the parking pawl all the way extended. This is how you want it to be when you reinstall it, because that helps it so that you can get that parking pawl inserted all the way back through to where it should be. So that's the park position. It really helps to have a friend kind of push on the truck and rock it back and forth, or move the tires back and forth. That way the parking pawl can line up and slide back in. This is definitely the hardest part of this whole job. And you can tell from the lighting, but we did forget something. But once your parking pawl is in place, then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your accumulator piston and spring. And have these 2 pieces. Make sure you got your both seals on there. They're split like the other ones, and then your spring goes together like that, goes up like that above this guy. So I kind of slip it back up in there, right up in there like that, and then you're going to push the valve body back up. Alright, so once you got your valve body in and your parking pawl aligned and everything, don't forget the accumulator piston. You're going to push it back up and put a couple bolts in it to hold it up there. And you're going to want to make sure that your little shifter and your electrical connector both slide into their holes nice and easy. And then what you're going to do now is you're going to come up here, put your shifter lever on. There is a a flat side that has to line up. You're going to put your shifter on, and then you're going to go up into the cab, make sure that you can shift between park all the way down to first, that you have all of that range, because if it doesn't move through everything like it should, that probably means that your parking pawl is misaligned, and you're going to have to pull the valve body down and wiggle it and get that parking pawl in there right. So once you got that in, then you can start putting your bolts in. Alright, once everything's in there as it should be, you can put in your valve body mounting bolts, the rest of them, at 120 inch-pounds or 10 foot-pounds. And then you're going to put in your filter. Those two bolts, has a little gasket goes around there. Don't forget to put your filter on. Then you're going to be able to put your pan on. And then we can move on to adjusting the forward band. Alright, so you'll come up here after you get your pan on, and you're going to grab a T40 Torx, and I think it's a 19 millimeter for the jam nut, but you're going to tighten your adjuster to 72 inch-pounds. And if I did a slip-in band job, I usually like to tighten it a little farther than that, back it off, and then go back to 72, just to make sure it's seated. But you tighten it down to 72 inch-pounds. If you have the diesel, then you back it off 1 7/8 turns. If you have the gasser, whether it's the V10 or the 5.9, you back it off 1 1/2 turns. And then you'll tighten your jam nut, and that's how you adjust your forward band. And then another thing you can do while you're in here is you can replace your output speed sensor, which is this one. And I think it's probably better to do it while your transmission's empty. I don't know if anything would come out if you removed it while there was fluid in and it's full. But you take it out and put in your new one. It's just right there behind your transmission pan. Alright, so first order business, make sure this boy's tight. Make sure he's pretty tight, because you don't want that guy sliding around. So tighten that guy up, and then you're going to take this piece, and it goes on like this, ball facing up. So you got to kind of look up there and line up the oh, there we go, line up the little half moon guy, and then you tighten down that lock nut and put this little guy on top. There you go. And this is a problem point for the new wiring harnesses. A lot of times they won't click with the OEM connector, but you're just going to make sure that connector is secure and it's not going to wiggle or pop off. I can't really do it with two hands, but then you're going to put your spring in through that guy, and then there's a little hole on that one, and you're going to put your spring through that one as well. And after that, you'll be good to start filling your transmission up with fluid. And Chrysler transmissions are really sensitive to the kind of fluid they take, so make sure that you're using ATF plus 4. Alright, now we're going to fill her up. So usually when you just drop the pan, you need 6 quarts, so that's what I got here. I have some more in the bed. Because we dropped the valve body, I'm sure that there's going to be another 2 or 3 quarts that we're going to need. We'll see how many it takes. We'll start with these first 6, and we'll go till then. Alright, we got all 6 in there, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the truck up and let it idle in neutral. Put the parking brake on, put it neutral, and then let it idle so that it can suck the fluid up, and I'll shift it into all the gears, up and down, and then I'll put it back in neutral, let it idle for a little bit. And then I'm going to check the dipstick, see where the fluid level's at, and then add accordingly until we get to the full mark on the dipstick. Okay, and with that, your truck should be good to go. I've solved many shifting problems with 47 REs with this exact same method, and I wish you the best with your truck as well. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.